I'm very happy to have you here in today's session, and thank you very much for accepting our invitation. And today's topic that you are going to speak is a very important topic for all of us as biomedical engineers, that the regulatory framework for medical devices, which is a very important topic. So I welcome you, sir, for today's session. Thank you so much. Yes. Over to you, Isha. Yes, thank you, Isha.
So without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. 𝐆𝐪𝐼𝐂, sir, to continue ahead.
Thank you so much for that wonderful welcome and introduction. Thank you, Professor Wama. A very good afternoon to one and all present. I must admit that this is a wrong time of the day to cover up, to touch upon this particular subject, which you probably already know or you will appreciate after the class, that it is very dry and dry. It's about regulations, it's about laws, it's about what to do, So let us try to make it as interesting as possible with all your cooperation. Actually, the subjects that we are going to cover today would take almost a few days to cover in detail because it's so wide. Because we are talking about the regulatory aspects across the globe with different regulators, major regulators at least. So that takes time, but then we will try to cover, at least familiarize each of you with respect to the different regulations and its minimum demands in the next 2 hours. So due to the brevity of time, let us get started right away. So let me share with you my presentation. Just give me a moment. Yeah. Just one sec. Can you see my screen, please?
Yes, sir. It's your screen is visible.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah. So here we are. So this is the first slide, which talks about the title, Regulatory Framework for Medical Devices, a Global Perspective. And this is what we are trying to do in the next 2 hours. The course content is here in front of you. First, we'll be talking little about general structure and content of medical device regulation, irrespective of which country or which region it belongs to. What are the common aspects? What are the common denominators you would find in any of the medical device regulation? Also, then we will try to see from the regulatory point of view, what are the different types of devices and what are the different classes of devices. Then we would spend our time a little bit going through the major device regulations of the world. We will try to cover a little bit about European Union device regulations, then US, Australia, Canada, Japanese. We will talk about a common program across many of the regulators, which is called Medical Device Single Audit Program, MDSAP. Then we will look at what's happening in India with respect to the regulation of regulating of medical devices. Then we will, towards the end, we will look at certain common aspects like the management systems, the quality management systems as prescribed by ISO, also with respect to US FDA. And just if time permits, we will talk a little about the risk management standards too. That is again another management system standard. It's a risk management system. Finally, at the end of it, you can note down the questions, and then I'll try to answer whatever possible. And if there is no answer today, it's not possible today. Maybe I'll try to answer them through email later. Now, the first subject, that is the medical device regulation, general structure and content. You can see 3 gears here, which is identified with stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. The stage 1, 2, and 3 are the stages in the life cycle of a medical device. You are all engineers, I understand, budding engineers. Some of you definitely would become entrepreneurs in medical device field. So how you should be, planning it and how you should be starting the journey. This one particular slide is very important to you. The first stage, that is pre-market. Pre-market is something before you manufacture the product and place it in the market. So there are certain things that you have to ensure as compared to any other product that you would be manufacturing or you are getting into. Like if you are into, let's say, some engineering goods, many of these things you don't have to be bothering about. But since this is going to be your product is going to be a medical device, there are certain additional responsibilities, certain additional aspects that we need to cover. What are they? It's the bullet points you can see is ensuring device safety and efficacy. So you have to have systems to make sure that the device that is coming out, whether whether it will be liked by the customer or not, is not the priority, but the priority would be this: is it safe to your customer, and whether it is efficacy. I mean, whether it is effective. What is effectiveness? Whether it will do the job it claims that it will be doing. You have to have controls on the design aspect. Then risk management. This is a huge element in device management system, device design, device manufacturing, and even after placing the device on the market, risk management needs to be a continuous process. Clinical evidence, what is a clinical study, clinical trials. So clinical evidence we have to provide. Then manufacturing controls to make sure that the device is manufactured so that it is safe as well as effective once it is, the output comes out. Packing and labeling controls, QMS compliance, quality management system compliance, that is required by the market that you are going to supply. You need to be ensuring that. Technical documentation, specific technical documentation laws are there that need to be complied to. Certifications, you need to probably get some certifications before you can place things on the market, products on the market. We are coming to the second stage, stage 2, placing on the market. There we would have to register our product in the market that we are going to export to, like if it is US, depending on the class and the type of your device, which you will see in a few slides from now. The products need to be registered according to the streams prescribed for that particular class and type. Your company should be established. I mean, that which is called the establishment, that needs to be registered in the markets as per their law. If you are going to export it, then in that market, most of the regulations are required. A person should be designated as your representative there. In European Union, they are called authorized representative. In US, it is called designated agent, etc., etc. Different markets have got different name, but then more or less this particular office need to be there. Then advertisement control. You cannot just go about advertise the way you want. There are stipulated laws and rules for how you can do the advertisement. We come to stage 3 after this. After all those things, you can place the device on the market. You can start exporting. You can have you can make your money, but then at the same time you cannot just wash off your hand and come back. You have to continue to be surveilling your product. That is what is called post-market surveillance on stage 3. And if at all there are certain incidents happen, incident in the sense adverse incidents, means there are certain injury happen because of malfunctioning of our device. Some unfortunate death happens. In all these places, there are procedures to follow with respect to reporting to different authorities. And if you find that there are certain problems with the already placed device on the market, sometimes we have to recall it. So we need to have all those procedures. So these are all additional things most of the time that we don't find, at least some of them may be there, maybe for a recall, that is in automobile industry, recall you might find, but you might not find the clinical evidence recorded. So here the list of things to be done to bring out a medical device and successfully market it for long term are much more. So let us see the next slide. This slide is talking about what is a medical device. What can become a medical device? There are definitions as per the international standards. So I just try to put it the parse it and then make into different parts and then present it to you. Is this visible to you? Because those letters are small. Can you read it on your screen? Someone can answer me.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. The last three.
Slightly small font it is, but
yeah,
fine.
Maybe you can try magnifying it.
Yeah.
So a medical device can be an instrument or an apparatus or an appliance or even a software, an implant, a reagent, a material, or any other similar article which is intended by the manufacturer to be used alone or in combination for human beings. So it is for human beings, not for veterinary or other purposes, for one or more of the following specific medical purpose. What are those purposes? Diagnosis, prevention, monitoring, prediction, prognosis, treatment, or alleviation of diseases. Second is diagnosis, monitoring, treatment, alleviation of or compensation for an injury or disability. The first point was for diseases, second is for all those things, but for an injury or a disability. The third bullet out there is investigation, replacement, or modification of the anatomy or of a physiological or a pathological process or state. Providing information by means of in vitro examination of specimens derived from the human body, including organ, blood, and tissue donations. And also there is some more conditions, which all this, actions should happen, but it does not achieve as its principal intended action by pharmacological, immunological, or metabolic means, or on the human body, but which may be assisted in its function by such means. What it means is, if all this, last but third slide says all those actions, all those effects happens, if it's with the help of a medicine, a drug, then that is not going to be a medical device. It is going to be a drug. It's a pharmaceutical item. Okay, the last one is out there also devices for the control of supportive consumption. Products specifically intended for the cleaning, disinfection, or sterilization of devices. Even these are now termed as medical devices. So all birth control devices, etc., all those comes under medical devices, and also the sterilizers and all its accessories, though they are all considered as medical devices. Next one is in vitro diagnostic device. So there are two types. One is the medical devices, which is in physical form. The other one is also physical form, but it is used for slightly different purpose. Let us see what they are. When this device is called an in vitro diagnostic device, that is being explained in these slides. A medical device is an in vitro diagnostic medical device, or it's called IVD, if it is a reagent, calibrator, control material, kit, specimen, receptacle, software, instrument, apparatus, equipment, or system, whether used alone or in combination with other diagnostic goods for in vitro use. What is in vitro use? That means in a laboratory, not in vivo, not inside the body, but outside in a laboratory. When you test, when you use any of these to make some test, it is called a medical, an in vitro diagnostic device, popularly known as IVD. It must be intended by the manufacturer to be used in vitro for the examination of specimens derived from the human body solely or principally for the purpose of giving information about a physiological or pathological state, a congenital abnormality, or to determine safety and compatibility with a potential recipient, or to monitor therapeutic measures. So it should be used to find out a pathology or a congenital abnormality, or checking the suitability, biocompatibility of certain things, which is an implant-like thing, which is going to be implanted in on a human body, or to monitor therapeutic measures, like the treatment is going on, and to monitor the progress of that. If you are using any of this, they are all called IVD, or in vitro diagnostic device. Let us look at what are the different types of medical device, especially from the definitions given in various regulations. There are active devices. An active device is a device which is working with the help of energy in any form, maybe electrical, pneumatic, whatever. So that they are all called active devices. Implantable devices, which gets implanted inside the human body. Transient use, short-term use, and long-term use. Transient use means a device, when it is used on the human body, is there only for less than 60 minutes. Short-term is from 60 minutes to 30 days. So they are called short-term device. And long-term devices are called the ones which are used beyond 30 days for any number, for example, or maybe a pacemaker or stuff like that, or an intrauterine device. All this stuff which is used for more than 30 days, they are called long-term devices. Invasive and non-invasive devices. Invasive is the one which gets into the which appears to the derma and go into the hypodermic region of body. Then they are called invasive. And non-invasive is the one which does not do that. Do not do that. Then procedure packs. Procedure packs are the ones which are used for in combination few devices which are for facilitating different procedures like surgical procedures, etc. In vitro diagnostic devices, we just saw what they are. Software as devices. Many softwares are considered to be devices because, for example, imagine a glucometer where maybe one of your parent or somebody known to you is using to see the blood sugar levels. So you will find a whole lot of information it pushes on to the dial of the the digital display of the instrument, like what was the average, what was what were the readings in the past so many years, and also what is the reading right now. So all this is facilitated using embedded software inside. So that software is considered as a medical device. If you are a software guy supplying to medical device manufacturers, the software part of it, you also need to be treated as a medical device manufacturer. Then classes of medical devices. This is a much common and much more important classification. This is called classes. So there are high risk. Mostly there are 3 or 4 classes. High risk, medium, low risk. Some of the regulations has got only this. For example, US FDA has got only these 3 classifications. High risk, medium risk, low risk. Whereas look at the European classifications that we will see in a few slides from now. They say high risk, then medium to high risk, the low to medium high risk, low to medium risk, then medium to high risk, and then finally low risk. So high risk, medium to high, low to medium, then low risk, that way, or in the reverse order. Most of the devices will be low. What we find out there will be low risk. Then in between there are low to medium, medium to high. For example, low to medium would be a surgical glove. Medium to high could be a hypodermic syringe. High risk device could be a pacemaker. So this is how the classes of medical devices are considered by any of the regulations. Now these were the introductory part of it. Now we are getting into looking at different regulations in a bit more detail. First, what we are looking at is the global device regulations with respect to European Union, or the medical device regulations which is being practiced in European Union. European Union, when we talk about it, it is a union of 27 countries together. So they formed the European Union for facilitating a common trade, boundary-free travel, etc., etc. So, how they do that is they've got a common European Parliament. In this Parliament, there will be representatives from each of the member countries, and they come out with the two different types of regulations or statutes. One is called directives, other one is called regulation itself. The basic difference between these two types is the directives are to be further taken or legislated as a law by the individual countries. The advantage there is they can add whatever more they want from the, basically from their geographical or societal needs or community needs. So they can add something more. Whereas when it is a regulation, they have to immediately implement it as such. So they don't have to re-legislate it under their law. When we say 27 countries coming as European Union, but even again, those countries are sovereign countries. It's not that, they have forfeited their sovereignty or anything of that sort. They're still independent countries. So they have got their legal system. They have their parliaments. So they will, a new law has to be passed in their parliament. That's how it functions. But in the case of regulations, it is so agreed by all these countries that if it is a regulation, immediately they will implement as the European Union regulation itself. Okay. Now, in 1990s, that is when all this medical device laws started evolving from the primitive forms. So I must say European Union played a very vital part, because that goes back to our younger days, and then we all were, for me personally, in 1994 is the time when I came into, I think, or this was it, 94 I came into medical device industry, and it is around that time these three medical device directives, this major regulations with respect to devices in Europe were being formulated. So you can see that the first one was Active Implantable Medical Device Directive. See, it's a directive, which means this had to be taken as a law or passed as a law in respective countries' parliaments. So that was in 90. The first of the nomenclature address that represents the year in which it was made effective. So 1990. So 385 EEC. The second one was MDD, Medical Device Directive, on your right hand side. That is 9342 EEC. That was in 1993. It came into effect. And the last one was In Vitro Diagnostic Device Directive, which came into effect in 1998. Now, what are the things that those regulations put forth, or to made the countries to abide by or obey? First, it said every medical device should have a CE mark. CE stands for Conformity European. Nowadays, if you take any gadget, you will find a CE written there, whether it is your mobile phone or anything. So all these CEs are European Union's common mark to place any material, any product on the European market, any of these 27 countries. But each CE mark is different, in the sense a medical device CE mark comes as, you can get the CE mark if you comply with Medical Device Directive or Active Implantable Device Directive or In Vitro Directive. That's how it came. So irrespective of whichever directive that you are supposed to be following, CE mark is common. So the CE mark was mandatory. Then it asked for a quality management system to be followed for medical device manufacturing and marketing. And the first one out there was EN 46000 series. And then ISO 13485 came into being. Then ISO 13485 series. When I say series, there were three standards those days: 13485, 86, and 88. That is because all these standards are based on the primary standard of ISO 9001. And for your information, those days ISO 9001 was a set of 3 standards: ISO 9001, ISO 9002, and ISO 9003. Correspondingly, EN 46001, 46002, and 46003, and then came ISO 13485, 86, and 88. Then by year 2000, ISO 13485. That's because by the time even ISO 9000 series had come into just one standard, that is 9001, like what we have today. ISO 9001, 2015, what we are following is a single standard. So I'm not going into much of the background why those were like that and all, because that will take our time and that's not very relevant here. What is relevant is the quality management system to be followed for pre and placing and post market. These 3 phases, that was spelled out in this quality management systems. So that the compliance to that was made mandatory. Then came risk management as per EN 1441. That was the first standard, 1441, and then came 14917. Now current standard for risk management is ISO 14971. Then notified bodies were created. What are the notified bodies? Notified bodies are nothing but the quality auditing service organizations. You must have heard about SGS, TUV, BSI, DNV, UL. These are all major, very renowned notified bodies which were which came into being at that point of time. It doesn't mean that they were not there. They were there doing different other different things, like each country had their own laws and rules for devices and pharma, and some audits were there, so they used to perform that. But notified bodies, under this particular name, they got qualified or they got licensed after this directive was put in, brought forth. Then competent authority to control, the guys who used to notify them or permit these registration bodies, whose primary job is to audit the manufacturer. If I am a manufacturer, they will come to me and see whether my systems are as per the directive, as per 13485 or 46,000, whatever, that point of time. So they are the ones who are notified. They are called the notified bodies, NBs. So European Union system is, there are different players. Manufacturer is there, then notified bodies are there, then competent authority, that is the legal person here is competent authority. Notified body is not a legal entity out there, that they are just contract workers, like contract bodies like. But competent authority is nothing but the health department of individual countries. Germany will have one competent authority, France will have another one, Italy will have another their own competent authority, that way. Now, other is representative to represent in EU. Being an Indian manufacturer, I remember we got in ANSEL, we got for Indian operations, we got our product for CE mark way back in 1996, as early as in 1996. So we had to appoint somebody in Europe. So we had our person in Germany. So he was known to be authorized representative. So for all practical purposes, the Europe will converse with him with respect to anything that happens to our device, and he in turn will converse with us. So this is still there. Now from MDD, recently Europe has changed to MDR. We'll just talk about that the next after a few slides. So but then the system has not changed. All these people are still there. Now, how did they classify? As per these 3 directives, which I showed you before, these are the 3 directives. These 3 directives, as per this, the 3rd directive is IVD. So the IVD classification is on your right-hand side circle, whereas MDD as well as AMD The classes are like this: class 1, class 2A, class 2B, and class 3. There are 4 risk classes. Remember, I showed you this risk here. So here there are 4 types of risk classes: high risk, medium to high, low to medium, and low risk. So Europe is following the same thing. Class 1 is the lowest risk. Class 2A is low to medium. 2B is medium to high, and class 3 is highest risk. And coming to IBD, the same way, it is called class 4, class 1, class 2, class 3. Actually, sorry, it is got mixed up there. Class 1, class 2, class 3, and class 4 is the highest risk. So for some reason, it has come on the top. Sorry about that. Right. Now, here this slide will give you an example of different devices which fall in different classes. On your left hand side, on a violet shade, what you see is medical devices. The other one is IVDs on the right hand side. Class 3 on the top, you can say pacemaker, heart valves, implanted cerebral stimulators, and so many. There are numerous devices like that. These are all class 3, which is very high risk. So if it is high risk, then what's the difference? You will have to have load of controls. The degree of controls to be exercised on the highest risk category is very high, very high. The kind of biocompatibility test that you have to do, the kind of clinical evidence to the extent that you have to do that. It's all different for different classes. In class A, probably you don't need to do much. You can just self-certify and place it on the market. But as it goes up from 1 to 3, the controls keeps increasing. And class 2B, condoms, lung ventilators, bone fixation plate, all these things are medium to high. So they're called class 2B. And class 2A, dental fillings, surgical clamps, tracheotomy tubes, these are all class 2A. Even surgical gloves, those things are class 2A. Then wheelchairs, stethoscopes, spectacles. You see, these are all not really getting into the person. It's all used in superficial. You can see that you can appreciate the degree of seriousness of those machinery or the devices coming down as we come down to 3 to 1. Similarly, on the other side, on the other side, on the right hand side, about IVDs, which are reagents per se. The ones used for hepatitis B blood donor screening, those are called the high risk. That reagent is called very high risk. Similarly, you can see the list. You can read the list yourself. So even in reagents, high risk, medium risk, moderate risk, and low risk are available. So which are classified as D to A, from high to lowest. We're continuing with it. Now, so far I have been talking to you about device 9342 EC. This is called MDD, Medical Device Directive, MDD. You can see my cursor here. This is it. So now what happened? All this were the fundamentals or the starting point, and Europe continued with this for around 20 years, almost 20 years. Now then they change. They're just changing it from medical device regulation, directive. Now it has become medical device regulation. So it's a regulation. Remember, I told you in the beginning, regulations is immediately implementable by each country. They don't need to legislate it. This itself is a legislation. That is how the structuring of European Union. So let us see what happens with MDR. What is MDR? Medical Device Regulation. So its deadline is 26 May 2021, which means it's already in effect. So if you are a person who is placing devices on the European market, some part of MDR at least you have to comply by this time, depending on which class you fall in. So if it is a class 3, you have to completely follow, and class 1, then there is some more time to comply with all the elements, but some elements you are supposed to be complying from this particular date. This replaced the MDD. It is much more comprehensive than MDD. MDD is Medical Device Directive. MDD had 23 articles and 12 annexures and around 60 pages in total, whereas this is much more heftier than that. MDR has got 123 articles, 17 annexes, and all these things are put on to almost 175 pages. It envisages stringent compliance. Post-market surveillance, though it was part of MDD, here it is much more tighter. They have introduced a central medical device database called 𝐈𝐕𝐈𝐂𝐄𝐒, which means if you are placing any device on your market, immediately that gets captured. That is how the system has been made under MDR. So that is called 𝐈𝐕𝐈𝐂𝐄𝐒. 𝐈𝐕𝐈𝐂𝐄𝐒 is nothing but European Union data for medical devices. 𝐈𝐕𝐈𝐂𝐄𝐒 registration, and there are a lot of procedures. So this you need to comply and follow. Then each device should be identified with a particular number. This is called UDI, Unique Device Identification. This is something new in MDR, which was not there in MDD. Similarly, in EU IVDR, that is 2017-746, that is number. This also has got certain features and salient features over and above IVD of 1998. Its deadline is next year, 26 May 2022. This replaces the earlier directive. 4 classes A, B, C, and D same. Classification remains same. Post-market surveillance is tighter here again. Central Medical Device Database 𝐈𝐕𝐈𝐂𝐄𝐒, again IVDR also is subject to data capture in 𝐈𝐕𝐈𝐂𝐄𝐒. Unique Device Identification, again it's applicable there. So that's much about European Union device regulations. Basically what we have seen is, we'll just revisit once again. There were 3 directives to start with. It started in 90s, 90, 93 and 98, 3 directives. The directives, for the first time, it came forward with all this new concept called CE mark, quality management system, specifically for medical devices, risk management. Then there were certifying bodies appointed who were christened as notified bodies. Why notified means competent authority, the guy out, below them, competent authority, which are the health departments, most of the places, most of the countries, they notify them as the bodies who can audit these people on behalf of themselves, like in competent authority. So in their place, notified bodies will be going and auditing. That is a concept. That is why it's called notified bodies. Then authorized representative in EU. And then the classes were there. There are 4 classes. And we saw some examples, and now you see European Union is now transformed into what is called the Medical Device Regulation, which is EU Medical Device Regulation, EU MDR, and this is already in force, and it's much more heftier, much more difficult to comply with, and there is a lot of pressure on notified bodies. There's a lot of pressure on manufacturing companies like medical device companies. So, but then compliance is very much required. So, advantage of the future entrepreneurs like you who knowing about it is, I must say, it's not. It's nothing. None of this is difficult, provided you do your homework first. And you, for you doing your homework, you should know what you know, how to know. The major issue with the life is most of the time we know the certain things that we know certain things that we don't know. Certain things sometimes we don't know that we don't know. That is where we get a hit. So this kind of information will help you that from planning stage itself, whether you are employed or you are starting your own initiatives, firms, this information will help you. So you can plan so that you can be informed in advance. So that's relevance of all this kind of classes. So this is the same thing about EU IVDR. Now we are going to look at a different market. This is called United States of America, USA market. They are very pioneering. They had a pioneering system, but much different than European Union. Why? Because they have been following it from an earlier phase, and it is a little bit of a legacy system. Legacy, what I say? Why I say legacy? Because it follows the traditional practices of quality control and quality assurance. But then Now I can say that it has almost merged into the new kind of systems which Europe and other countries are following. But then they are keeping it under the brackets of their earlier device control regulation. But the new aspects they have definitely incorporated. We'll see that. So in USA, this agency is very, very famous, FDA. Though many countries have got FDA, but when we hear FDA, most of the time we feel it is US FDA, and it is rightly so, because they have got a big cloud, they do a lot of work, and you can see the different departments, what they have here. They have a department for biologics, means vaccines, another for food safety, another for tobacco products, one for veterinaries, separately for, of course, for pharma. And the red one is what we are talking about. That's why it is highlighted and made big, magnified. It is for Center for Device and Radiological Health, CDRH. In USA, any device that is to be placed on the market are controlled by CDRH of US FDA. Any drug will be controlled by CDER, this one on the left-hand side of the CDRH. So similarly, for everything they have got independent but connected body of regulation and regulatory people. Here now we are going to talk more about CDRH. We can let us look at the classification. As I said in the beginning, some of the markets they have classification, a three-tier classification of medical devices, and some have four. Now this is a classic example of a three-tier classification. I think this is the only example for even today in the major device markets. US only has got a three-tier classification. So as you can see, class 1 low risk, medium risk, class 2, class 3 highest risk. We'll come back to the slide to explain what is written as the second part of each class. Now, key controls by US FDA CDRH. What are the key steps or actions they envisage from the manufacturers, or how they execute a control over the manufacturers or importers of medical devices in US market? First one is a few registrations. Establishment registration, which means if you are a manufacturer of a new medical device and you found some buyers in USA, first thing you have to do is, of course, you have to comply with all the US FDA specifications for manufacturing, designing, etc. on one part. But before placing on the market, you have to register your establishment, your firm, with US CDRH. And also you have to list your medical device. So that also is nothing but another registration. So you are registering you as a manufacturer one time. Then each of your medical devices they are going to place that are going to be listed separately, individually. And mind you, there are hefty fees associated with that. Third is pre-market notification 510K, unless exempt. Some are not required. Some devices are exempt from that. Otherwise, pre-market notification. This is nothing but an approval for class 2. The medium one. See here, class 2. This class 2, if it is a class 2, you have to get certain approvals, which are, I must say, less stringent than for class 3. So they give that approval through a notification called 510K notification, pre-market notification or 510K notification. And if it is class 3, you have to have a pre-market approval. Both are for, in common parlance, we can say these are nothing but approvals for the respective devices extended by CDRH. But if it is for a low risk product, it is called 510K, that approval. And the higher risk products, it is called PMI. But then, of course, the route for obtaining these two approvals are definitely different. You have to do much more to get a PMA than to get a 510K notification. That is why it is called. First one is only a notification, the other one is an approval. Okay. Fourth thing, sorry. Investigational device exemption, IDE, for clinical studies, which means you have a new device you have done it, in India, it is working well. You have done clinical studies, clinical trials here, but US may not approve that trials. In US, if you want to place, most of the time they will want clinical studies done either on their market or other equivalent markets which they approve. Okay, so for that, what you have to do, you have to first place that product on their market and subject it to clinical studies by getting the subjects from them and all. So any device which is exported for that kind of purpose, these notifications or PMA is not required. That's what that fourth sentence says. Then quality system regulation. We saw in 1348, here we saw this is we saw a quality management system regulation, which is 13485 for European Union, whereas for US, this is called QSR, Quality System Regulation, and that is stipulated in their Code of Federal Regulations, Part 820, 21 CFR Part 820. CFR means IPC, like here for India, Indian Penal Code. Similarly, Code of Federal Regulations out there. So it's a law there. The quality management system regulation is not just a standard, it's a law. Unless you comply with that, if you are a US citizen out there, you can be put in jail. And for a foreign manufacturer like us, we can be blacklisted. They cannot come and then put us in jail because we are not under US law. But then when you are supplying material, they can confiscate it, they can send it back, and all those things can happen. So it is a law. Labeling requirement. There are specific labeling requirements that should appear on a medical device. So that is specified under CDRH, under US laws. Medical device reporting. They also had got MedWatch database. We talked about a database for European Union that is called 𝐈𝐕𝐈𝐂𝐄. Here there is another one called MedWatch. But then MedWatch may not be as comprehensive as 𝐈𝐕𝐈𝐂, because 𝐈𝐕𝐈𝐂 will have everything getting into the database captures from the moment you place it on the market, whereas MedWatch is all about incidents that has happened. What is an incident? Incident is an adverse incident, which is if your device, the use of your device results in serious injury or death, then that is called incident. So the reporting of that is called medical device reporting. Medical device reporting is nothing but reporting of incidents or near incidents. So that is facilitated through what is called MedWatch database. Okay, so that's about USA. 3 classes. CDRH is the one who is controlling. And okay, as I had told you that I will come back here. Now, class 1 low risk. First one is mostly exempted from pre-market approval. If it is a class 1, like you are selling some stethoscope there, probably you don't have to get any of this, because they are not supposed to have any that kind of control. You have to establish these first 2 steps you have to do: establishment, registration, medical device listing you have to do, and you can directly place it. That means you can directly export it. Whereas if it is a class 2 medium risk, you want to send some surgical gloves, because they need a lot of gloves now, Corona. So they need a lot of gloves. Why not source some gloves and send it? No, sorry. Hold on. You have to get this product approved through 510K or notified through 510K. You have to file a 510K application and then give the fees, submit all the papers that is should accompany it. Then they will approve. The letter will come to you. Only after that you can export it, if you want to export it in your own name. Last one is class 3 high. So there they say class 2 needs 510K and class 3 needs PMA. PMA is what? Post-market approval. Right. Now, let us look at another market. This is Canada. Canada is near to USA, but they have got a different set of very different medical device regulation, and it reflects, or it is much more similar to European regulation than to US regulation. So there are 4 classes: class 1, class 2, class 3, and class 4. Here again 4 classes, but the nomenclature of the classes are different. It's called is coming out with its 4th class. In Europe also there are only three classes, but the second was divided into 2, A and B. That's why in effect there were 4, but they were not addressing it as 4th class. 1, 2A, 2B, and 3 was, that's how they were addressed. But here it is 1, 2, 3, and 4. The highest risk is 4, lowest is 1. Now, what are the different elements of device regulations if you are planning to export the devices to Canadian market? First of all, the agency which controls this is called Health Canada. They are the counterpart of US FDA. In Canada, it is Health Canada. And the regulation is Canada Medical Device Regulations SOR 98-82. That is the particular. I mean, we just discussed the quality system regulations out there was 21 CFR Part 820. That is American regulations we were talking about. But in Canada, they are called SORs. SOR stands for Statutory Orders and Regulations. Statutory Orders and Regulations. Whereas FOR was CFR was Code of Federal Regulations. These are all different ways each country call their statutes. 98-82, which means in the year 1998, they promulgated this particular regulation. And mind you, in the year 1993, we had Medical Device Directive. So they are coming out in 1998. So they had a lot of time to observe a new kind of regulation that was happening and working out in a big market like European Union. So they naturally adopted that with alterations which are specifically required by Canada. Here again, the quality management system is required, which is 13485 ditto European Union, except for class 1. Class 1, they don't need it. Now, certified QMS under MDSAP by authorized auditing organization, AAO. We'll see what is MDSAP later. MDSAP is a single audit program, and Canada subscribes to that. So this 13485 has to be, certified or certified by a notified body in European Union, whereas here it has to be by a authorized AO, auditing organization. Both are same, but under different regulations and practices, the names are different. That's what we are seeing here. The same, let us say TUV. TUV is a notified body for Europe. Again, TUV is a AAO for MDSAP audits. So they have, that kind of licensing and registrations has to be availed from the corresponding regulators. It could be a competent authority for notified body, whereas in AAO, it is MDR. So we will see that. So this here again, 13485 need to be complied with and by certified. That's what we need to understand. Then medical device establishment license, nothing but like a establishment registration in US. Here again, in that way, they are kind of similar with or comparable with the US in this aspect when it comes to the establishment license. Yeah, here either manufacturer or importer to hold MDEL. What it means is, if tomorrow you are starting your firm and exporting to Canada, but then you can either get your firm in India registered in Canada, or you can catch hold of a importer who has got a registration for his firm, and he in turn can import from you. Of course, he allowed to comply with a lot of regulations to show that you have systems here. So and then that in that route also it could be exported. This is for class 1, I tell you, not for everything. Class 1. If it is a class 1, this can be done. For class 2, 3, and 4, you need to have medical device license. And let me clarify. Sorry, I made a mistake in my previous statement. What I said, medical device establishment registration is for MDEL. It is for class 1. As far as medical device licensing is for 2, 3, and 4. This is comparable to PMA of US FDA. What is PMA? Pre-market approval. The other one was pre-market, pre-market notification, 510(k) notification. This is pre-market approval. And here we are talking about Canada. Canada, it is called MDL, medical device license. Now that's pretty much about the large picture, the bigger picture about Health Canada's regulations. So what all we saw? There are 4 classes, and these are the motamoti, the complaints that you need to ensure. Now we are looking at another major market, a very advanced market called Australia. Australian TGA regulations. Yeah. Here the regulating authority, like US FDA in US, Health Canada in Canada, in Australia, they are called TGA, Therapeutic Goods Authority. So TGA is the one who is regulating pharma as well as devices. It is Therapeutic Goods Administration. Therapeutic Goods Administration, TGA. To place on the Australian market or to export from Australia, the device should be included in the Australian Therapeutic Good Register, ARTG. First thing, the basic requirement is that your device should be in ARTG. ARTG is nothing but a register, an electronic register. Australian Therapeutic Good Register, Goods Register, ARTG. ARTG is an electronic register, which means it's a huge website database. There you need to find your device placed. Then do with the help of TGA Business Service, TBS system. So there is a software, big app, we can say. There is an app called a TBS system, TGA Business Services system. All the registrations and the follow-up, everything is done through the software only. Okay. MDD and IVD, there are classifications. So the classifications ditto similar in the case of Australian medical devices, as compared to or in comparison to European Union. The same kind of classification you can see here. And their systems also, even the compliance systems, the regulations, everything has got close resemblance to European Union's medical device directive. Yeah. It is MDD 4 classes. That is not really, it is MDs is fine. Medical device, that's what is meant, not medical device directive. It is medical device. There are 4 classes, IVD 4 classes. Class 1, Class 2A, Class 2B, Class 3 for medical devices, and for IVD it is 1 to 4. Same as European Union. Now this is kind of a workflow that should happen if you need whether you are a manufacturer within Australia or a manufacturer outside Australia. This is something that you have to follow. Foreign manufacturers need an Australian sponsor. Okay, so if you're in India, in USA, I told you, you have to appoint somebody. They're called designated agent, US designated agent. Here, same kind of person, same kind of office, same kind of responsibility, but it is called Australian sponsor. You need to have somebody in Australia who will be known as Australian sponsor. GMDN system to be followed to identify the device. This is like in MDR, now I said UID, unique identification system, device identification, UDI, sorry. Unique device identifying number, UDI. Here GMDN is also a UDI. GMDN is a school of identifying devices. It is Global Medical Device Nomenclature. That's what GMDN stands for. GMDN stands for Global Medical Device Nomenclature. So it has got its own protocols on how to identify a device, its manufacturing number, its manufacturing date, its the category, the class, the purpose to be used. So those things are defined in that system. So accordingly, you have to adopt that system to identify the device before placing it on the market. Technical files to be presented for each product, same like European Union. Even European Union, you need to have technical files which describes what's the product like, what is its intended purpose, what are the contraindications, what are the indications for use, what are the variants available, what about its risk management, what about its biocompatibility. So there are a few, this many plus many more information that should be compiled in one file and kept for. Then there should be a file for each device or a family of device. Okay, so this file is a requirement under MDD and MDR in Europe. Same thing is true with respect to Australian TGA also. You need to have technical files. So essential principles checklist, checklist of quality, safety and efficacy shall be part of the technical file. Yeah, this is same in Europe also. There it is called essential requirements checklist, ER checklist. Here it is called essential principles checklist, where what it says is, we don't have a slide of that, so I tell you what it says is, their regulations will have this essential principle checklist blank. You have to fill it up. It would have around 15-16 clauses, and some of the clauses will have many tons of sub clauses. So all these clauses, when you satisfactorily answer, you can say this device is safe to use and effective for using. All right. So if it is it will ask you that checklist. Is a sterilization? I mean, your device, is it a sterilized device? Are you going to place on the market a sterile device? If yes, then they say, what is the sterilization method that you are using? Is it EVO? Is it irradiation? Is it electronic beam? Is it steam? Do you say it is steam? If it is steam, is the steam process, the sterilization process, is it complying with the corresponding standard? There is a standard for each kind of sterilization under ISO. So are you following that? Has it been audited? Yes. So with this, with the help of this kind of checklist, the regulator is taking care, asking you to do certain things, and they then say yes. Then say yes. You cannot say yes before that. And once you say yes to everything, or when you say that it is not applicable, not everything will be applicable. Like for a non-sterile, for a stethoscope supplying gentleman, it need not be sterilized. So he can say no, it is not sterile. Then it's fine. Then those controls are not applicable to him. He need not answer any of those. X-ray machine, the servicing may be applicable there. If it is for service, what you do. Whereas for a stethoscope guy, servicing is not applicable. So there are many clauses which are applicable, not applicable, based on the function, the purpose, the class, the category of the device. So once you answer them satisfactorily, successfully, that means the regulator is making sure that your device is effective and it is safe to use. Okay. Now, the last comment out there is CE mark products are easy to get listed in ART. So if your product is already CE marked and placed on the European market, the procedures that you have to comply with is much minimal, because they put a lot of confidence in CE mark and the process behind that. As simple as that. So they don't want to reinvent the wheel, or they don't want to duplicate the efforts for them as well as for the manufacturer. Yeah. That much about Australian. We are going in small snippets. These are all, in each of these things need big chapters in themselves. But then today's one is one that of familiarization. So we touch upon the overview of that. Now let us take Japan, one of the major advanced and big market. So they have let us say who regulates things. There is a law, Pharmaceutical Affairs Law, of Japan covers regulations on pharmaceutical, medical devices, and cosmetics. But this law is administered by Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare. It is written as minister there, actually it is ministry. Under the PAL, the Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare has the authority to give, authority for what? To give marketing approval, to issue a license for marketing authorization holder, to issue a manufacturing license. For all these things, the MHLW is the ministry who gives approval or clearance. So that much about the regulator part of Japan. And this is about the classification. Again, it is a 4 classes. Here they call it as A, B, C, and D. So far we have seen 1, 2A, 2B, 3, then 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Now here we see class A, class B, class C, class D. Again, same thing. Class A is the lowest risk and class D is the highest risk. B and C in between. Now, this slide tells us what are the prerequisites to be complied with to bring medical devices into the Japanese market. And for the product, ministry's approval according to Article 14 should be available. They say it's shonen. It is in Japanese language. Or third-party certification NISHO under Article 23(2). So any of these 2 is fine, and also even the third one is also fine. Marketing notification, Todokere. This is also Japanese version. So marketing notification, this is another process. So for the product, either ministry approval or third party notification, and also in addition marketing notification. These steps need to be completed. Then Japan, for the company, a license for marketing authorization holder in Japan, if you need to have a marketing license, you need to have this particular license obtained. So that is for the manufacturer of the company. For the plant, the manufacturer. License for manufacturing status as recognized foreign manufacturer. If you are a Japanese indigenous manufacturer, you have to get a license. If you are a foreign firm who are exporting devices to Japanese market, you need what is called a recognition, which is recognized foreign manufacturer status should be availed. For all those things, there are very, very detailed procedures. So I repeat, for the product, ministry's approval or third-party certification, and also marketing notification. For the company means the importing company, the company who places it on the market. License for marketing authorization. So that means if you are an importer there in Japan, or you have got your office out there, then that office should have license for marketing authorization. Those 2 things. Then for the plant, wherever it is manufactured, whether inside Japan or outside, license for manufacturer and status of a recognized foreign manufacturer if you are a manufacturer from outside. No, that's much about the Japanese programs. Now we are moving on to what is called medical device single audit program. So in all those previous slides for the past half an hour, 45 minutes, what you have been seeing was the major device regulations existing internationally, globally. We started with the European Union, moved on to US, then to Canada, via Australia, we reached Japan, and discussed very briefly what are their major, the requirements for placing the devices on the market, on the respective markets. We will see a little more about that in US and other markets when we look at the quality management system slides, which will come a bit later. We will discuss in detail QSR, quality system regulation of USA, and also 13485. Now, this is a little bit of an odd man out out here. This is not a regulation, but we are talking about a audit program, medical device single audit program, MDSAP. Let me give you some history out here. You see, now we discussed 5 different kinds of regulations, major markets. But I tell you, every country has got their own medical device law. Like India has got one, Malaysia has got a pretty mature one, South Korea has got a very beautiful medical device regulation. And the Latin American countries, Brazil has got a very advanced medical device regulations. China has got one. A lot of markets have got their own medical device regulations. And imagine if I have certain products I have to export to each of these markets, I will be ending up with almost facing audits every single day of the year in my factory, because that many places I export and they have their own. So this was a pressing problem for the industry and also for the regulators, because that was harping on their resources also. So some time back, around 2 decades back, there was a platform called GHTF. This is Global Harmonization Task Force. Global Harmonization Task Force. As the name indicates, that was an initiative by major device manufacturing companies and major regulators of the world to come together onto a platform and do certain exercise so that much of the regulations which is across different countries, independent can be merged together. And if you do this, or if you are if you are going to do this as per this particular guidelines that would be brought out by this body called GHTF, then everyone will all involved parties, they will recognize that. So that was a premise on which GHTF started. They did a lot of a lot of work actually. We also got some time, when the draft regulations or guidelines were being prepared. Being part of the multinational sector, we also got some chance to contribute to that comments and the contributions. So we remember those days. Now, if a few years down the line, I think maybe almost a decade back, GHTF was replaced by another body called IMDRF. This is essentially the same kind of purpose IMDRF has, but industry was taken out of that. It is International Medical Device Regulators Forum, IMDRF, International Medical Device Regulators Forum. Why that was happened is not to dissociate the industry from the standardization initiative, but to keep the decision making to the countries, the regulators. Earlier in GHTF, the voting was equal rights vote. So for some reason that was getting into a lot of delays and lapses. So even the industry agreed, yes, we don't need a voting right. So let us get ahead of this. So IMDRF, not every regulator is part of IMDRF, but major regulators, Japan, US, and a few other, Europe, of course, they all form IMDRF. Now, what we see here, the Medical Device Single Audit Program, MDSAP, is an initiative by IMDRF. They thought of harmonizing many things. Let me tell you one more thing. By the time GHTF became IMDRF or made way for IMDRF, GHTF started a lot of good job. They came out with a lot of guidance. Even today, it's available on the IMDRF sites. How to do corrective and preventive action, how to do validation, how to do biocompatibility study. So there are in specific subjects like that, they have come out with beautiful guidelines. So even today, those guidelines are being used not only by IMDRF, but even the standard making bodies like ISO. They refer to that because it's once it is done. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can as well go and focus your energies elsewhere. So that was the philosophy. So for one particular aspect, audit. Audit is a big part of medical device regulation, is it not? There are notified bodies, you have to complain. How will you prove complaints? Through an audit only you can prove complaints of your systems, your complaints to the system, conformity to your system. So each, as I told you, if I am a manufacturer or you're a manufacturer in India and then export to every country, you will have a lot of audits to face. They thought we will come out with one single audit wherein the involved parties will recognize the audit results and then they don't audit any further that particular firm. So for that, this program was brought out. So let us see what are the advantages and disadvantages. The first, the BOX, the medical device single audit program, is a program that allows the conduct of a single regulatory audit of a medical device, manufacturers, quality management system that satisfy the requirements of multiple regulatory jurisdictions. Audits are conducted by auditing organization authorized by the participating regulatory authorities to audit under MDSAP requirements. Last box, the MDSAP is a way that medical device manufacturers can be audited once for compliance with the standard and regulatory requirements of up to 5 different medical device markets. Which are those markets? Australia, Brazil, Canada, Japan, and United States. Australia, Brazil, Canada, Japan, and United States. So these are the 5 people who recognize MDSAP results. A single audit is used in lieu. The advantage to device manufacturers is specified in this one sentence. A single audit is used in lieu of multiple separate audits or inspections by participating regulatory authorities or their representatives. Therefore, for many medical device manufacturers, the MDSAP reduces the overall number of audits or inspections and optimizes the time and resources expended on the audit activities. That is self-explanatory. We talked about it in the beginning. Now, these are the participating regulatory forums. TGA, that is for Australia. Second one is Brazil. Third is Health Canada. Then for Japan. Last, US FDA. It is administered from US FDA. The IMDRF office is functioning from US FDA office. So, but that is only for administrative purpose. They are there. That's all. But then they take care of interest of all these 5 markets. Now, in addition to the participating countries, there are certain official observers. Why official observers? Because they want to see how well it works, whether with their kind of complications and in their country and market or organization, whether this can be adopted in future. So they just want to observe. So European Union today, for a CE mark, you cannot, they don't participate, they only observe. So for a CE mark, if you have got an MDSAP audited results, that's not enough. You need to have a separate 13485 audit done by the notified body. Second thing, United Kingdom's Medicine and Healthcare Products, that is MHRA, Medical Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency, MHRA. The MHRA of Britain, of UK, is a very reputed regulator. Okay, so MHRA is also an observer here. Then even WHO is also looking at it for pre-qualification of in vitro diagnostics program. So these 3 are the observers: EU, MHRA or UK, and WHO. All right. So that's a very, in a nutshell, in a very brief introduction about MDSAP. In MDSAP, let me add something more. If it is about 13485, why there should be a audit name called MDSAP, and why is it called differently? Can you not call 13485 audit and then? No, MDSAP covers more than 13485. In MDSAP audit, 13485 is a basic quality management system prescribed by ISO. It's an independent organization. But each of these countries have got their own regulatory requirements, which are also to be audited for. So when the MDSAP auditor, if I'm the manufacturer and I go to a AO, authorized organization for audit, MDSAP audit, I have to specify for which all country I need the certification. So if I need for Brazil, they will audit me for 13485 plus Brazil-specific regulations. Similarly, the case with USA and Japan or Australia. Okay, so that's the difference, and they have got a very robust system, system wherein each and even small different requirements by each of these countries and their regulations are addressed. So an MD sub auditor, it is easy to find out what all he need to look into when he walks into a manufacturer's place to do an MD sub audit with respect to that particular country's requirement. So that's the beauty, or that is the value they are bringing onto the table. They are bringing everything into one basket in such a way that it could be audited based on which market that manufacturer wants to cater to. Right. Now we are coming to our beloved country and its medical device regulations. Indian medical device regulation. Okay. We must say, we cannot compete with all these big markets, in the sense our regulations are not at all mature anywhere near that, because we never had medical device regulations all these years. Our devices were controlled under Drugs and Cosmetics Act of 1940, and not all devices were controlled. Only 15 of them, and from a couple of years it is 37. Beyond that, nothing was covered. And then came 2017 Indian Medical Device Rules, and which got amended in 2020 in a big way. So after this amendment of 2020, every device that is manufactured in India come under the purview of regulation, albeit very limited regulation, very limited control. As of now, we are just catching up. Let us see where we are. Earlier, these were the 37 devices which used to be controlled as drugs, because it's under drug law. So even a syringe was called a drug as far as regulatory requirement is concerned. Syringe was a drug, like ampicillin is a drug. The injecting syringe also is a drug, because it is under drug law. So all these 37 devices were controlled under drug law, and like any molecules or any tablet or medicine, they need to have a manufacturing license and importing license, blah blah blah. So many different licenses as per our law they record, and even these ones also record the same things. But it is very difficult to control devices with the drug law, because the drug laws or the regulatory system for pharma has been made to control molecules, not for engineered goods. Okay, not all devices are engineered goods. Keeping that in agreeing to that, still we must say mostly these are all engineered goods. So that is why you have a different regulations, MDD, US FDA, QSR, etc. for all these aspects, like the medical devices. Whereas in India, we were controlling through drugs law. So that was one issue. Now, IMDR has come into force. In 2017, it came into effect. And in it was promulgated in 2017 and came into effect in 2018 and 2020. Amended. Let us see how we go about how do we take our baby steps. We also divided this into 4 classes: Class A, Class B, Class C, and Class D. So here it is something like Japanese. We call it in that order: A, B, C, and D. So we'll come back again for the second portion of that. What all this signify? And also we have categories. This is for administrative purpose, not for regulatory purpose. Why I say administrative? Let us say category. Let's look at a category. Medical devices, there are 24 categories. The first one is anesthesiology. So what our regulators did was, all the instrument that comes under anesthesia, it's connected with anesthesia, are bracketed together. So there will be 60-70 devices which comes under anesthesia that function. So this category will have that many. And further, each of the device, they will say in which class it will come, out of which A, B, C, D, E. So that is how the device class identification is happening. Whereas in medical device directive or a medical device regulation in Europe, the classification has to be done by the manufacturer because they give bigger, huge laws like huge platforms or brackets or canvases, wherein there are rules that can be applied, and then which depending on which rules get applied, the resultant the class that particular device will fall into. I don't know whether I confused you. See, here in India, we said this particular device, let us say the simple stethoscope, falls into class 1, or a coronary stent that falls into the highest class, class D. We say that. Whereas in MDR, you go, it will not tell you any particular device falling into which class, but it gives the rule, like if it is a transient device, it will be in such a class. If it is a transient and invasive device, in this class. Okay, and if this device is coming in touch with the heart tissues, then it will fall into this class. So they give guiding rules. Advantage of that system is huge. If tomorrow, because this is an engineering things and technology is coming up, and every day new medical device technologies are evolving, coming, new technologies are coming, software, nanotechnology, all these things are being utilized, and then new solutions are coming for healthcare in the form of devices. So with the guiding principles, immediately you can say, this is going to be this class. Whereas in India or in US also same thing, like Indian, they categorize it there. They say this is what it is. That's it. In India, the regulator has to take stock of that and say this belongs to this class. So the definition is given by the regulator in India and US, whereas in a European system, that's the beauty of that system. It could be the law will say, the rules will say, which device class it will fall into, and what kind of by virtue of being in that particular class, what all controls will get applied to that, right? So these are the 24 medical device categories under which the classifications will be done by the regulator. And on the right hand side, the same for IVD, only 3 classes: IVD analyzer, IVD instrument, IVD software. If it is a reagent, it is IVD analyzer. If it is an instrument, a device, a thermometer, these are all instrument. And if it is a software used for measuring certain things, or to keep a logo for the measurements, etc., then it's a IVD software. So 3 categories. Mind you, it is not classes, it is categories for convenience purpose. Now we need to register as per IMDR. Device need to be registered in India. So we are given the requirements for registration. What all required. So you have to give the name of the company, name, address of the manufacturing site, then specification and standards of medical device for imported devices. If it's an imported device, also you have to have a device registration. Manufacturing devices manufactured in India also should have a registration here. So that is kept here. What are the specification standards? Is it a ISO standard or a US ASTM standard, whatever, that you have to specify which standard. Next one, details of device. So there are a huge lot of what is the generic name, what's the model number, intended use, class of medical device, material of construction, dimension, shelf life, sterile, non-sterile status, etc., etc. All those details you need to specify when you apply for registration. Certificate of compliance with respect to 13485 standards. So this is a common denominator. 13485 in India, for any medical device to be placed on Indian market, one should have 13485. If it is a class 1 also, class D also. If it is imported also, manufactured here also. Just take that into account. So 13485 is the common denominator here. Then free sale certificate from country of origin for imported devices. That means declaration by the competent authority in that particular country that this particular device has been cleared for sale here. That is a free sales certificate. That such certificate need to be presented. Then a duly signed undertaking stating the information furnished by the applicant is true and authentic. So you have to give a certification that whatever I say is true. Because why? Because in India, you are going to get the registration immediately. They are not going to come to audit you, mind you, except for the 13485 standard. The registration bodies will come, the certification bodies will come. Now, no government guy is or anyone is walking into for looking at other aspects. 13485 is all about, mind you, quality management system. It doesn't say that whether you have other aspects which are not covered under regulatory aspects which are not covered under 13485 are covered or not. So for that reason, they need a certification saying that for now we say this is all true what I say. Now as the system get matured, we can expect even auditing happening and all those controls trickling in gradually as we progress. Yeah. Now we have got certain dates. All devices need to be registered like this by giving this information when. Actually, we are almost approaching that. 1st October 2021 is the date for registering everything. Next one, 37 devices which are controlled under the drug law are exempted. Remember this list here? This were already controlled with full control, licensing, etc. So they need not be registered now further. That's what it means. Registration number is assigned to each device. So according to this law, after October 31st, if you want to place any device on the market, registration number should appear. So when should it be? 11th August from 2022. From that date, if you want to place anything, the registration number should appear. 11th August 2023 for class C and D devices. The first one was, 2022 August is for low risk devices, class A and B. 23 for C and D. Yeah. But now let me tell you, this was in February 2020. This particular notification which came up. After that, the great Corona happened. Everything got haywire. But I think government is not going to strictly adhere to these dates. So, but then we don't have any update as of today. But then they might postpone, they will come out with some alternative. But as per law, this is how it appears. The stance as of today. Right. That's about Indian medical device rules and how we are moving ahead with that. So what we need to understand is every quality management system, every device manufacturing firm should have, if it is being manufactured in India, 13485 certification, they should have a quality management system for that, and the basic things they need. Now let us see what is 13485. Quality management system we are going to look at in detail here. All right. Yeah. Just have a good look at this diagram. It's giving you a picture of different quality management systems. That is just for you to appreciate 13485. This is one among many QMS. This is not the only QMS. The basic QMS is, you can see on the top, ISO 9000. That is a general quality management system, which can be applied to any industry. So very specific. It can be applied to an aerospace company. It can be applied to a school. It can be applied to a fertilizer manufacturing company. It can be applied to a distribution agency. So it's very general. And its focus is customer satisfaction and continual improvement in our business. Continual improvement in our business in the sense, not in our profits, but in the business systems, customer satisfaction and the improvement in the products, etc. Continually improve. Whereas all other things which we have denoted there are industry-specific quality management system. Okay. So 2020 you have, that is for food industry. So it will talk about a quality management system which would focus on the specific things, specific focal area of food industry. It is safety again. It should be safety and food safety. That is why it is the quality. So that the system will be defined. Whereas ISO 9001 would have a focus of customer satisfaction. So the system, design would be in that manner. Whereas when it is safety, you are focusing on, then risk management, so many different things will come into the picture. So that, and there is 16949, that is for automobile industry, 15278 pharma packing industry, and 13484 for medical device industry. So 13484 for medical devices, what does it have over and above the general quality management system prescribed by 9000? All this, let me tell you this, all the different quality management standard takes the structuring from 9001. The clauses are more or less same, not more or less, it's all same. Because all this follow the principle called PDCA, plan, do, check and act. You have to plan things, then accordingly, that means the designing, the research and development is all planning. Then do things, you have to do the manufacturing accordingly. Check the inspection, etc. Your product inspection as well as your process inspection, your system inspection. And then act. Act means what? If you find something wrong, take actions so that it won't repeat. Corrective actions, we call it that. Take corrective actions, take preventive actions, and improve your systems. And then that means you are planning again. Then do that. So PDCA is a spiraling model of quality improvement. So ISO 9000 basically ISO has put that into a specification, like in the framework of a specification. And with that framework, even different quality management systems have come up with their own systems focusing their priorities. Now, in 13485, just tell to yourself what could be the priority, what could be the focus. Focus could be nothing but safety and efficacy and quality. These three are the focal area for medical device industry. So 13485 all about that. Now this is very important because it's a baseline QMS for many regulatory approvals. ISO 13485 2016. As of today, it is 2016. We'll see the history evolution the next file. So EU needs 13485, Canada needs, Australia, India, Japan, and many more countries needs 13485. It's a common denominator now. Now this is the evolution. Medical device QMS 13485 2016. Evolution chronology. It started in 1993. That time it was EN 46001. What is EN? EN means European normal, European standard, which means it's a French word. European normal, it's a French word. So EN 46001 was the QMS developed to cater to the medical device directive MDD. When MDD came up, they didn't have 13485. So the EN sense analog is the the authority to develop standards for Europe, CEN, LEC, sense analog we say. Then now the sense analog standards, significance are coming down because ISO came up. ISO's only business is to make standards. So then they thought, why to duplicate? Let ISO do it, and we will adopt that. Who will adopt that? The competent authorities, the European Union, other regulators. They say, yeah, ISO 13485 is also ISO's property, not any of these regulators' property. But they recognized and adopted it, and they don't want to do that with their own standards. So that's the beauty of the standards. So there is somebody who is specialized in making standards, which is an organization called International Organization for Standardization, which is in Europe. It is a Pakka private organization whose products are standards. You see, and 9001 is one of the standards, one of the most successful standard. 13485 is another very successful, hugely successful standard for them. So how the standard came up, that's what I'm saying. So 46000 was born in Europe with the title Quality System Medical Devices, particular requirements for application of 9001, which will be the basis for developing 13485. In 1996, 13485 came into being, the first edition. And along with that, there was 13486 and 88. I told you why that happened, because that time ISO was in 3 split standards. So according for each of those split standards, there were one more standard. 2000 ISO became just one standard. They did away with 9002 and 9003 came to one standard. Everything was incorporated into one single standard. Similarly, 13485 also, we started following that particular framework then on. So we have single standard 13485 then onwards. Then 2003, 13485 second edition, that was called 13485 2003. So that it came, then 13485 underwent some harmonized European version with the 3 European directives associated with the medical sector. So some harmonization happened with respect to the medical device directive. Not all the device directives requirements were first, they were not part of 13485. So in 2012, for example, PMS, post-market surveillance, all those directives requirements were not part of the standard. So those standards were harmonized. Those were harmonized into the standard. So 2012, it was not a version, different edition, but it's only a kind of an add-on stuff. But in 2016, 13485 third edition came up with, with incorporating everything so far. So now what is currently running is 13485 2016. What all it does above additional focus areas above ISO 9001. I told you 9001 has got some general focuses, some general priorities, whereas each industry QMS will have its own priority, and 13485 being QMS for standard for medical device industry. Let us see what are the priorities it has brought onto the table. Controls in the work environment to ensure product safety. ISO 9001 doesn't say anything specific to that, but it says how should be your clean room, what sort of controls you should have in the clean room, means what all monitoring you have to do, those kind of things. Focus on risk management activities and design control activities during product development. Extra focus, even 9000 has got a focus, but here we talk more about biocompatibility. We talk more about having to do the clinical trials or clinical evaluations. Those things are being talked in the design control here. The promotion and awareness of regulatory requirements as a management responsibility. So that is another area newly added into 13485 as compared to 9001. Specific requirements for inspection and traceability for implantable devices. So it goes on to tell you specifically to do what all in the case of manufacturing or distribution of implantable devices. Implantable devices are the ones which gets implanted inside the human body. Specific requirements for documentation and validation of processes for sterile medical devices. Then specific requirements for verification of the effectiveness of corrective and preventive actions. Yeah, they talk about CAPA in 1001. Here they talk about specific requirements for verifications for effectiveness. I mean, additional requirements for CAPA. CAPA is corrective and preventive actions. Then specific requirements for cleanliness of products. For example, if it has to be sterile product, what should be the what should control that you should have for ensuring its cleanliness before sterilization, and if it is a non-sterile product, what degree of cleanliness it should have. All these things in 13485 gives more focus and coverage. Now let us see the clauses. This has got 8 clauses. Whereas first 1 to 3 clauses, the introductory clauses, it doesn't talk about much about. It doesn't talk about the things to be complied with. Rather, it talks about the scope of the system, the definitions that is there, and those few things. But from 4 to 8, the 5 clauses, the first clause, quality management system, talking about how your quality management should be if you need to comply with the standard. What kind of documentation it should have, what kind of authority it should have, what kind of retention of the documents and records you need to keep, what kind of management controls you are going to have, what is management's responsibility, that is in clause 5 it comes to. So basically how to design the clauses and how to control the changes that will be coming into quality management system under the system. These kind of things you have to first design. This all the specific clauses under clause 4 is talking about how to design your QMS. Second is what should be the role of the management responsibility in ensuring that the QMS will be functioning, established and functioning well. Third, 6, 7, 8, resource management, that is the planning stage. what are the resources that you need, what are raw material, what are facilities, what are human, the manpower, all these things comes under close. How you have to plan it, how you have to plan the clean work environment, how we have to plan the engineering controls, the maintenance, machinery, it's preventive maintenance, those kind of things, all those things, planning stage. Then product realization, that is do. How are you going to finally get the product? Means not only product realization, the product realization involves, other than producing, there are few things which has to precede the actual production. What is that? You have to get an order. So that is a customer process. So what will be a process for customer process, getting order? You have to purchase things in, those things need to be covered. Purchase controls. Then the customer must be giving you something to incorporate in his product. He may be supplying some label. That is called customer property. What are the controls? So on and so forth. And then, of course, how will you control your warehouse? How will you control your manufacturing operations? How will you control your sterilizations if it is applicable? All those comes under product realization. Finally, 8, measurement, analysis, and improvements. There are a few clauses, but it covers 2 areas of PDCA cycle. Check and act. So through measurements, what are the measurements? The measurements that you are doing at the incoming stage, inspection stage, the in-process stage, final release stage, also the internal quality audits, etc., wherein you measure the health of your processes. Like, are all these processes which you design as per clause 4 quality management system, are they working fine? Are they getting the results? How will you do? You have to measure that also. Even that process measurement and product measurement, both are coming under C, check activity. If your processes are not good, you will not get good product. That's philosophy behind that. And if you find that there are certain things that's not happening, then take action. That is what's called A. So PDS. So there are basically in 13485, there are 8 clauses, and the working functional clauses are 4 to 8. This is what you need to understand, and it follows what is called PDCA, and its focus. 1348's focus is safety, and whose safety? The involved parties. Who are the involved parties? Definitely the patient, maybe even the health worker also, maybe society at large. So all those safety should be taken into consideration. So these are the priorities, the focuses. Okay, next one is, I think we are running out of time. Maybe we will overshoot by a few more minutes. Medical device QMS. Now we are looking at a different QMS. This is by the quality management system. FDA. FDA had that, as I told you, they have got their own system, a legacy system. So let us see what it is. This is again part of US Code of Federal Regulations, which means it's part of their law. 21 CFR Part 820 is the number of that law or rule or act, whatever you say. Is a law prescribing punitive actions for non-compliance enforced through US FDA. All device manufacturers who supply to the market to comply with it. It has 15 subparts. Let us see what are the subparts. These are subparts. Subparts A to M. So A says general provisions, then says quality system requirements, like in out here. Quality system requirements, nothing but quality management system. So they are also incorporating these aspects into their law. Quality system requirements, then design controls, document controls, acceptance activities, nothing but inspection and testing, then production and process controls, identification and traceability, purchasing controls, non-conforming product, corrective and preventive action, labeling, packing, handling, storage, statistical technique, serving. See, more or less everything is controlled by US FDA too. Actually, they control little more, but then it's in a different model. The presentation is in a little old model where they say this is how it is. So part again, why it is so? Because it's a law. It's a law. Whereas the other one is a free, a freestanding standard 13485. Which is brought out by a business organization called International Organization for Standardization. Here it is a law. That's why. But essentially, this also looks at to making devices very safe and effective. Now last few slides are left, in which we are talking about medical device risk management standard. Yeah. Why risk management standard? It is hugely important for medical device industry. It is equally or even more important, more important a standard because whether it is MDR, whether it is even QSR of US FDA today, or Australian standards, Japanese standard, MDSA, everywhere the onus is on identifying the risk and taking action beforehand. You have to design the quality in. That is why you have to consider the risk and design your products or processes in such a way that it either alleviates that risk or at least it softens it down. Okay, so that is it. So then how do you do it? That's what this standard called ISO 14971 says. It started as 1441. I think I remember this standard. It was maybe some 5 or 6 pages when it came, EN 1441, way back in 1996 when we went for first certification. Whereas today it is such a big booklet. I don't remember how many pages, but then probably it has 60-70 pages at least. Yeah. What is the intent of 14971? Risk. It is, in the first slide, the outer slide, it is, defines the risk. Risk, as per 14971, is defined as the combination of the probability of occurrence of harm and the severity of that harm. Okay, there are some technical thinking is required little bit. This is probability of occurrence. What's the chance that a certain failure can happen in your device? That is the probability. Is it probable? Is it probable to have a very frequent device failure? Then the probability of occurrence is very high. And severity. And what is the result of that harm if at all it happens? Will it result in a very fatal injury, or maybe some very, very cosmetic defects? Very cosmetic defect. Okay, so that is what the two consideration. So it is a combination. It's a function of these two actually. Second one, the intent behind risk management is to identify, evaluate, analyze, assess, and mitigate potential issues. Risk management is a total product life cycle process. Two aspects there. So the risk management, its aim is to identify, then evaluate, then analyze, then assess, and mitigate potential product risks. Okay, first you have to identify, evaluate whether it is going to be severe or not, analyze how we can mitigate it or alleviate it, assess our actions, and then get into the action, mitigate or alleviate the potential product issues. Risk management is a total product life cycle process. Yeah, that is very important. Risk management cannot be restricted only to a designing. It needs to have its extension towards the product manufacturing, and also even after going out of your factory, going onto the market, even then you need to have risk assessment at that stage. Each stage should be a continuous activity. So now, where does 14971 comes? So doing all those things, you need to have a set of standards, a set procedure, a set process. So 14971 identifies and defines that, gives the framework for doing the risk management across the product life cycle process. Now these are the clauses. On the left hand side you will see 10 clauses. Right hand side what you see is another document, that is 24971. The first one is 14971, 24971. That is nothing but a guidance document to help the manufacturer to adopt 14971, because that there it is specified in a requirement ways, just as a requirement, whereas here in the guidance document it gives the necessary guidance to comply with that. So there are 10 clauses, whereas 14885 had only 8 clauses. This is 10 clauses. and these are the clauses like scope, normative references, terms and definitions, general requirements for management system, then risk analysis, how to do, risk evaluation, how to do, risk control, how to do, evaluation of overall residual risk. After doing all those things, if there is any risk left over, that is called residual risk. Then risk management review, how do you review that? Then production and post-production activities. Once you have identified the risk and taken action, how you will translate those into production and post-production phases. So it gives the system in every stage. Then we come to another representation of the same thing. How do we do that actually? That's what it says. So first, risk management plan is worked out. For that, risk analysis and evaluation, you need to see what all you need to consider at that point of time. What is the intended use? For example, you take the case of a simple glove. If it is a surgical glove, you need to know that it is used in surgery. So you need to know that if it is a contaminated one, it can compromise the health of the patient. Whereas if it has got holes in it, it can compromise the health of both patient and doctor. Imagine he is attending with that glove a corona patient, or let's say mask, if it is not doing its job, So similarly, what is the intended use? Whereas the coming back to the glove example, if the glove that you are using is for the electrical purposes, like the electrician to use, then it is not a medical glove. The intended use is different out there. You have to make sure that its resistivity, the dielectric factor, so many different things probably you take into consideration, not the biocompatibility or the contamination. Those are less important out there. So that is why the intended use is important in any device. Foreseeable misuse, whichever way, how could it be misused? Then the risk assessment. Find out how you find the risk assessment. You find out what is the severity and what is the probability of occurrence, the frequency as well as the severity. So multiplying that is the risk score. And it talks about some tools in this central one: FMEA, FRA, HSCCP, HACCP, ETA, others. Okay, so these are the statistical tools that's available for analyzing and evaluating risks. FMEA, failure mode, effect analysis. Similarly, everything will have its own. These are all statistically based, and it can be applied for any product, any process, any industry. Then risk control. What are the control measures? Risk reduction options, implementation and effectiveness, residual risk, risk benefit analysis, verification and validation. These are the 4 or 5 different aspects we will cover under risk control. Where is the risk control coming? Under mitigation or alleviation. Okay, you have identified the risk as a function of probability and severity, and you used these tools to do that, FMEA, and the control now you have to devise. That is what it says. What are the options that you can use for control measures? So all those things you have to define here for the identified risks. Then you have to also talk about implementation and effectiveness of that implementation. Then after that, is there any residual risk? You have to assess that. Then having that residual risk, whether we need to accept that risk or not, which will be based on a risk benefit analysis. Okay, what is the risk benefit analysis? This risk anyway cannot be removed, but the benefits are high. The classic example is releasing the vaccine to the population without completing the third stage of the testing, clinical procedures. So before completing the clinical validation, after second stage, Government of India, Health Ministry, why? There was a risk. Something could have gone wrong on the third, but then there was a much heavier benefit or much greater benefit by being able to serve or arrest the propagation of the virus at that point of time when India was facing, or we were facing bad times in May, June, or before that. So that is called a risk-benefit action decision taken. So for that, you have to do a risk-benefit analysis, verification, and validation. So whatever control measures you put, like in any other process, you need to verify those control. Control measures also you have to verify or validate. We are not getting into the details of what is a verification, what a validation, not in the scope of this. So once everything is done, you have to make what is called a risk management report. So on the left hand side, you have a risk management plan. That is your planning stage. You are going to say what all, how are you going to do all those things, which is in the center part. And report will say how you have done that and what is the result. Right. So this is what in a briefly risk management process, and all these processes are defined, and its tools and systems are given in 1497 the standard. The current standard is ISO 1497:2019. I think we have come to the end of the program. Yeah, we wanted to cover even the Q&A in between, but that's okay. We could just complete the course part of it to us. Thank you. Now it's open to Q&A.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, I guess we have some questions in the chat box.
Okay.
Siddhant asks that if a product has ISO 9001:2015, is it mandatory for ISO 13485? And if yes, then should 9001 be renewed or should focus on 13486?
I would say you should focus on 13485 because 9001 will not serve any purpose as far as regulatory compliance is concerned. It can help you to where you never had any standard before, any system before. If you come to, I think I'll come on camera. Okay, sorry. All right, no, I cannot do that because I'm sharing. Fine. So you definitely need to focus on 13485.
Sir, he also asked that how an Indian company apply for US FDA if it has all compliance required in India.
Please repeat the second part of the question.
He asked that how an Indian company apply for US FDA if it has all compliance required in India.
Okay. Yeah, that's what. So unfortunately, US does not consider any other country's compliance as having enough compliance to accept those products freely to its market. So it has to undergo the certain one stipulated through their CFRs, 21 CFR. So which requires, if I can briefly revisit those slides, you have to have a device listing done. You have to do the establishment registrations done there. Then depending on which class of the instrument or device that you are going to place it, if it is a class 1 according to their classification, you can probably right away after these 2 steps you can send it. But if it is to class 2, then you have to apply for what is called 510K. If it is class 3, the highest one, then you have to apply for what is called PMA. That is the post-market approval. Yeah, you have to apply for that. There are detailed procedures for that. Yeah, so maybe offhand we may not be able to discuss that now. It's a procedure. I mean, they can go through the USFDA website. It gives quite a bit of very good clarity on that. And if you need further help or something like that, they can go for a consultant or somebody like that. Yeah.
Sir, there's one person, Samson. He is requesting that to give a reference material or website for knowing more details on Indian medical devices, standard and regulatory information. Yeah,
they can go to CDSCO website. CDSCO, that is called Central Drug Standards Control Organization. It gives all the details.
Okay, sir. And sir, there is one more question. which says, will US FDA be mandatory for radiological devices like diagnostic X-ray from this year?
Yeah, of course it's. I mean, if you want to sell it in, in USA.
Okay, thank you, sir. I guess that was it for the questions.
Oh.
I would like to call upon Grita Narayan ma'am to give the vote of thanks.
Okay.
Over to you, ma'am.
Hello, sir. Thank you very much for the excellent presentation. You have gone through everything in the medical regulations and approvals required. All approvals required you have gone through, like European Union, USA, Canada, Australian regulation, Japan's regulation, and the minute details about the approval required, like categorizing the product in Japan and categorizing the product in India. Everything has been gone into, and we were only knowing about one ISO, and we have come across some different ISOs like 13485, 14971. So these are the ISOs required for the medical devices. That also we come across today, actually, at least personally for myself. And then you have gone through MDSAP, IMDR, then rules, quality management systems, risk management system, what else? Everything related to medical regulation has been touched upon by this particular presentation. And actually participants were asking about your contact, like any email ID or LinkedIn, we can see anytime. But if you feel free, you can share your email ID also to the participants. They were really excited, and thank you very much for accepting our invitation and coming to VIT platform for sharing your experience. And I suppose you will get many interactions in Mumbai also. Due to this presentation, you have come to Mumbai and then given the presentation. Thank you very much. On behalf of Vidyalangar Institute of Technology and Biomedical Engineering Department, BMSA, that is Biomedical Students Association, and Biomedical Engineering Society of India chapter at VIT, I would like to thank Sir for giving this presentation. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much for those good words. And I also owe thanks to you, because in industry, in consultancy and all, we don't get this chance to address youngsters. Youngsters always comes with a very aspiring, open young mind. So it is always rejuvenating for us to address them. Of course, there were. I mean, this platform was not very conducive for an open house or something like that. But yeah, I think it was good. And I must say thank to you, ma'am, Geeta ma'am, as well as Professor Jitendra. I think he was there in the first talk that we had, and also we had others, and the MC Isha. Am I getting your name correct?
Yes, Isha.
Yeah, Isha, and so perfectly
Suvarna
done.
ma'am is our department.
Yes, coming to
academic coordinator. Yes.
Yes. So thanks to her too. So thank you so much for the hospitality and everything.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. And I'm sure that everyone must have gained the knowledge about whatever you have discussed today. So I would request all the participants to fill the feedback form and the quiz
we
also.
can take one photograph. No,
yes,
please
ma'am.
switch on the camera and then take one photograph of the session, please.
Yeah. Please.
Participants also, please switch on cameras. Sir, you are not seen, I think.
I'm not seen?
No.
I am here in this corner. I can see myself. I don't know how to.
Okay. Yeah. I will just change it. Into
maybe you have to change the
gallery. Yeah, I can see. Yeah. Have you taken the screenshot, Ananya?
Even I have taken.
Okay.
Done?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
We have Professor Neelam Panjabi. She is the convener for Biomedical Students Association, one of the organizing team.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
So the feedback form and the quiz has been uploaded in the chat
Yes, sir.
box.
Thank you.
I request you all to feel the same. And thank you all the faculty members and all the participants for joining this session. Please stay tuned with us for further events. Thank you and stay safe.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.